Hello again. So what I have this morning is it's not a whole lot. But it kind of goes with sort of what I was talking about last week about God expecting obedience and about the thing that had kind of been gotten in my way of my relationship with God and it being allowed to grow and build was a seed of doubt that had been planted. But another thing that has been kind of interfering with my relationship with God and me being able to find that passion again is basically an act of disobedience to God that has been going on for a lot of years. I wish I was better at being able to pinpoint exact dates and how long it's been. I'm just really horrible at time and how long ago certain things happened. But what I can tell you is that many years ago, I was in a church service, and it was one of those powerful church services where you really feel the presence of God, where you can almost just feel his breath and just feel his life. It was just one of those amazing services. And I heard in my mind, I guess you could say, I heard this statement: obedience at all cost. Obedience at all cost. Obedience at all cost. And I heard it multiple times, but then it was as if God was telling me that he wanted me to say it out loud. I didn't make much of a connection to it. I just started saying that. Obedience at all cost. Obedience at all cost. And it was sort of like me, I was basically making a commitment to God, even though at the time I really had no idea what I was committing to. So I said that, and after church, I was a smoker at the time and had smoked for many years. And after church, and I kind of went away to smoke my cigarette that I would have after church. And right as I was getting ready to light it, it was as if I heard the voice of God say, "Quit smoking." And it was like, oh, like in a sense, I sort of felt like I had just been bamboozled by God. Because I think that if I had known that he was getting ready to tell me to quit smoking, I might not have agreed and said obedience at all cost, but he was preparing me for that. That's what he wanted. So I quit smoking that day. I hadn't planned on it. I didn't feel like I was ready for it, but I quit smoking. I do know that like probably 3 days into it, I was just a mess because I did a cold turkey. There was no prep work. There was no like nicotine replacement. It was just, oh, all right, I guess that's it. And so 3 days into it, I was a complete mess. I remember I was laying on my floor, like literally crying because I wanted a cigarette. And I remember saying to God at that moment, if there were a place I could go where you would not see me, I would be in there smoking. I just wanted him to know that that's what it was. Anyway, years passed and it got easier. It was one of those things that all of a sudden it didn't require a lot of effort or a lot of thought, and I quit for several years. Well, right about the same time that I kind of was talking about last week, when my focus was off of God and onto other things that seemed like really good things, during that same time, I'd had a really frustrating day. And I saw a friend smoking, and I decided that I wanted to hit a cigarette. And I felt like it had been so long that it didn't really matter. So I hit a cigarette. Before long, I was smoking a cigarette. And before the day was over, I had bought a pack of cigarettes. And I started smoking again and have been smoking for for a long time, for several years. And at 9:30 tonight, it will have been a week since I've had a cigarette. And this is not a new command. This wasn't that God spoke to me again and said, it's time to quit smoking. The thing is, he already did that. He did that many years ago. And I agreed, and I told him that I would be obedient at all cost. No matter what it cost, I would be obedient. The moment that I smoked another cigarette, I was now living in disobedience. It didn't matter how many years between the first command and me being disobedient. It was still disobedient, because at no point did he say, okay, start smoking again. So me smoking even one cigarette, regardless of how many years it had been between, was still an act of disobedience. And when I started smoking again, I was living in that act of disobedience every day, being disobedient. So God's command, it doesn't ever expire. It doesn't ever expire. It's not like God can tell you to do something and in 15 years, 20 years, that command expired. If you still haven't done that thing that he told you to do, then you are still living in active disobedience until you have done what he has commanded you to do. And that could very well be, if you're feeling like this distance between you and God, or if you're having a difficult time finding that closeness, or feeling that relationship, whatever the case may be, it may be because you still have an act of disobedience out there. And God cannot or will not give us the next step until we've been obedient to the previous step. So if there's something that God has told you to do and you're still putting it off and you still haven't done it, then you are still being disobedient, because it doesn't expire. So wish me luck, as well, not luck, just pray for me, because it is still difficult. It's getting easier again. It's been a week since I've had a cigarette for the second time, and it is getting easier, but I do still struggle. So just keep me in your prayers, and I will be praying for you too, that you will move on whatever it is that God has told you to do. It's time to act. It's time to repair and restore our relationship with God so that we can move forward. And if there's disobedience hanging over your head or in between your relationship, it's kind of like separating you, then it's time to be obedient so that you can move forward. See you next time. Bye.